Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So good morning, students. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good. Good to go.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is continuation to my previous class. We need to calculate average area rainfall or area mean rainfall because we need to construct stormwater drainage system in an area, or we need to construct some hydraulic structure. Okay, so we need to know the average rainfall within the catchment. And apart from that, suppose if you take any state, suppose let us take West Bengal. So it is easy to tell the average rainfall of West Bengal rather than average rainfall in it like in districts and at rain gauge stations, because each state has thousands of rain gauge stations. We cannot tell like rainfall at each rain gauge station. Instead of that, we can tell easily that in West Bengal this is the uh, average rainfall in a given year. So to find, and not only that, because each state, we can divide into many number of watersheds, catchments. So for each catchment, we need to know average rainfall for further processing. And there are three important methods to calculate average rainfall in a given watershed or catchment. First method is arithmetic mean method. So arithmetic mean method is very simple. Suppose if you see this slide, this is the catchment area, and there are four rain gauge stations, and outside this catchment area there is one more rain gauge. Okay, so to calculate the average rainfall within this catchment by arithmetic mean method, it is just averaging of these four rain gauge stations. Generally, we avoid the rain gauge stations outside the catchment, and but to apply arithmetic mean method for a given catchment area, the variation of rainfalls at rain gauge stations within the catchment area should be less than 10%. So if it is the variance is very high, then we cannot use arithmetic mean method. So arithmetic mean method, the formula is given here. Suppose there are n rain gauge stations in a given catchment, then p bar of that catchment is equal 1 by nth of summation of all the rain gauge stations in that catchment. So next important method is Thyssen polygon method. So this method is accurate than average the first method. Okay, that is arithmetic mean method. So in Thyssen polygon method, the principle is uh, at any point, I mean the rainfall at any point in the watershed is the same as the rainfall at the nearest rain gauge. So that is the principle behind Thyssen polygon method. So for that reason, what we do that we will divide in a catchment area into several polygons, and each polygon is enclosing a rain gauge station, and within the polygon the rainfall is equal to the whatever the rainfall measured at that station. So suppose if you see this catchment area, there are P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. So there are five rain gauge stations. Okay. So suppose if you see this P2 and P3, we need to connect them, and then we need to draw a perpendicular bisector. Okay. So the, the either side of that perpendicular bisector, that is represented by the rain gauge on that side. Okay, suppose here we have drawn the perpendicular bisector, then the area on this side of this perpendicular bisector, rainfall is given by P3, and this side the rainfall on this side of this perpendicular bisector is given by the rainfall at P2. Okay. So what we do in this Thiessen polygon method, first we draw connecting lines between each rain gauge station. Then we'll draw perpendicular bisectors. So we will join these perpendicular bisectors. Okay. Then we form a polygon around a rain gauge station. So then each watershed or each catchment area, so that is, it consists of many polygons, and each polygon is represented by one rain gauge station. So in that polygon, the rainfall is given by that rain gauge station. Okay. So if you see in this catchment area, so this is the polygon. Okay. See this each rain gauge station, it is surrounded by uh, these perpendicular bisectors, and as on other side, suppose it is at the boundary, then other side the boundary line of catchment area represents its periphery. And if you see, yeah, here all the rain gas stations are one side, they are surrounded by a boundary. But if you look at, if you take some other catchment area, then there are some polygons which are enclosed within the catchment area. Okay, so uh, the of the weightage of each polygon, that is equal to the area of polygon divided by the total area. So if you see here, P bar is equal 1 by A of a summation of 1 to j aj pj. So this aj by A, that gives a weightage factor. Okay, so the weightage factor into the rainfall at that rain gauge. So the summation of all these weightage factor, that is equal to 1. Okay, and the important, I mean, limitation of this Thiessen polygon method is it cannot be used for orographic precipitation. Okay, because orographic precipitation, rainfall is changing rapidly from one location to other location. So therefore, we need to have many more number of rain gauge stations. Okay, so if the rain gauge stations density increases, then Thiessen polygon method is not suitable. It is suitable for a sparser network of rain gauge stations. Another disadvantage of this Thiessen polygon method is, suppose we added, suppose this is a network of rain gas stations in this catchment area. Suppose we have added one more rain gas station, or otherwise we have removed one rain gas station. So in those circumstances, we need to draw the this Thiessen polygon. I mean, we have to again divide the catchment area into number of polygons. Okay, so this is a tedious job. And you may wonder how to calculate the area of this polygon. Okay, suppose this P5, one side these perpendicular bisectors, but other side is a boundary. And but to calculate average rainfall, we need to know the area of this polygon, or this we can call it as a sector, or this element. Okay, so for that we have to use an instrument called planimeter. Okay, a planimeter, it is an instrument through using, it has got two arms. and we can also anchor that a planimeter. So using that, we can map the coordinates along the boundary line. So we will know all the points along the periphery of a polygon. Okay, so then we can calculate the area. So next important method is uh, isohedral method. So this is the better method than other two methods, that is arithmetic mean method and Pearson polygon methods. So in isohedral method, first we will draw contour lines of same rainfall. Okay, so that is called as isoheight. Isoheight is, it is a curve. It is passing through points which are of same rainfall. So this catchment area, so it is uh, so it is drawn with isoheights. Okay, so these are all isoheights. These are nothing but contours of same rainfall. How we can draw? Because we know the rain gauge stations like P2 prime, P1, P2, etc. So using the interpolation, uh, we can draw the points of same rainfall, then we join them, then we'll get isoheight. Okay, so you can see that this area of this catchment area, it is divided into number of elements, and each element, it is surrounded by two isoheights and as well as other two sides by boundary. Okay, so uh, within this area, the average rainfall is average of these two isoheights. Okay, and but to calculate average rainfall of this entire catchment, then we have to use this formula: P bar is equal 1 by A of J is equal 1 summation of J is equal 1 to J AJ PJ. So this AJ by A, this is a weighting factor. So that weighting factor is nothing but the area between area of catchment between two isoheights divided by total area, and the Pj is nothing but average of isoheights which are boundaries of that uh, uh, area. Suppose in this case, the average rainfall is average of this iso height of 10 and iso height of 20. So the average rainfall is given as 15. Okay. Here also the area is obtained using a planimeter. We will do uh, one numerical problem, and we'll calculate average precipitation using arithmetic mean method, Pearson polygon method, and isohedral method. This is the problem. You see, this is the catchment area, and this thick line is called as ridge line. Okay, that means, so whatever rainfall falling inside this catchment area, that is go to a outlet, one common outlet. Okay, and the rainfall outside this catchment area, outside this ridge line, that goes to some other outlet. Okay, so that's the definition of ridge line. Okay, so that represents a boundary for the rainfall going to a common outlet. So you see here, so there are near eight no no there are totally 11 rain gas stations. Okay, the five rain gas stations outside this catchment area, and six rain gas stations inside the catchment area. So at each rain gas station, the rainfall is given, and as well as the total area of the catchment is given. So by using arithmetic mean method, you can go to the previous figure, previous slide. For arithmetic mean method, so we have to consider only the rain gas stations within the catchment area. Okay, so just we'll take the average of the rainfall station within the catchment area. So that is given by 96.23. Okay, so that is given by 96.23 centimeters. Uh, Please note down that although these rain gas stations are near to the catchment area, but they are outside the catchment area, so therefore they are not considered. So this is the drawback of arithmetic mean method, because although the rain gas stations very close to the catchment area, we cannot use them to calculate mean rainfall in that catchment area. So average rainfall is given by 96.23 centimeter. But note that for this rainfall distribution, we cannot use arithmetic mean method because the variation is quite high. Because you see at the rain gas station at 10, rainfall is 140.6 centimeter, whereas rainfall at 6, it is 45.6. Okay, so the variation is much more than 10%. So arithmetic mean method is simply cannot be used for this catchment area. So next, Thiessen polygon method. So in the Thiessen polygon method, each rain gauge station, it is connected to the surrounding rain gauge stations, and the perpendicular bisectors are drawn. Then each rainfall is covered by the sides of polygon, but the rain gauge stations adjacent to the boundary line, so they are surrounded by the perpendicular bisectors and as well as part of the boundary. So you can see that here the weightage factor of each rain gauge station, so that is the area surrounded of, I mean the polygon surrounding the rain gauge station divided by the total area. So area of polygon divided by the total area, that gives the weighting factor of that rain gauge station. So you can see that for rain gauge 6, this is the area, and for rain gauge 7, this is the area. Okay, so because this is the area, whatever the points in this polygon, they are close to the rain gauge station 7. Similarly, uh, the area of rain gauge station 6, so every point in that area is close to the rain gauge station 6. So now the stations, the
Sir?
total 11 stations. Okay,
Hello, sir.
please tell me.
Sir, in the previous slide,
Okay, this is
so
this is a slide
yeah,
you are referring to.
so for
Okay.
rain gauge station 2, what area we are going to consider?
No, for rain gauge station 2, because this is the outside the boundary. Okay, so we are not considering any weightage factor for this. So I'm coming to the point. Okay, just let's look at the table. Okay, so this is the table. There are totally 11 rain gauge stations. Within that,
So the table is not visible.
table is not visible. All of
I mean,
you
it's
are
not in the main slide. Yeah, now it is.
no, okay, because of the I think slow internet speed. So now you can see the table. Okay, so you see that
Yes,
in
sir.
this rain gauge station 2. Okay, so the polygon which is enclosing the rain gauge station 2, this is completely outside the catchment area we are considering. So therefore, its area we are straight away taken as 0. Similarly, the rain gauge station 3. okay, and rain gauge station of 4, because the areas, I mean, surrounding these 3 and 4, they are not part of the catchment area. I mean, the polygons surrounding these 4 and 3, they are not part of the catchment area we are considering. So straight away we have taken the 0 areas. And for Renge station 1, okay, for Renge station 1, like a small pot that is falling within the catchment area. So that area is given as 20, that area is given as 22 kilometer square. Similarly, if you look at number 8, okay, so this is completely surrounded by one uh, hexagon, okay, and its area is given as 373. Okay. So this is the highest area. That means the weightage factor of this station number 8 is more than the weightage factor of other training stations. So now we have estimated the areas of each polygon, which represents a rain station. Okay, and now next thing is we need to calculate the weightage factor. So the weightage factor is the area surrounding a rain gauge station divided by total catchment area. That gives the weightage factor. The total catchment area is given here, 1944 kilometer square. So 22 by 1944, that is given as 0.011. So similarly, we have to find the weightage factor for all the rain gauge stations, and you can see that the maximum weightage factor for 8 and station number 8, and as well as station number 6. Okay. So then we have to multiply with precipitation into weightage factor. Okay. So the precipitation, suppose the station number 1, the precipitation is 20.3, and the catchment area, surround catchment area, uh, which represented by the station number 1, is given as 22, and its weighting factor is 0.011. So 20.3 into 0.011, that gives the mean rainfall of polygon surrounding station 1. Okay, sorry, because the last 2 weeks there was a lockdown, and the switch connecting my office room in some other lab. So the switch is, I think, due to power outage, the switch is down. So I'm using Wi-Fi. So now I, so therefore the network is slow. So you see now, students, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, now we have calculated the precipitations, the mean precipitation of polygon surrounding each rain gauge station. Okay, now we add together all of these rainfalls. Okay. Then we'll get the average rainfall. Okay. Because we are adding the weighted rainfalls of each and every polygon, then we'll get the average precipitation of the total catchment area. So here, by Thiessen polygon method, the average rainfall is calculated as 87.96 centimeters. And next method is isohydral method. So in isohydral method, what we'll do, using interpolation, we will draw contours of same rainfall. So you can see that here there are this contour number, let's say 1. Okay, so it's connecting points of 30 centimeter rainfall. Then this another contour line, okay, uh, which is connecting the rainfalls of 60 centimeter. Similarly, other contours. So, and it is not shown. There is another contour area which is maybe 20, which is going outside this catchment area. So let's look at the table for better understanding. So now we have drawn isoheights of 20 centimeter, 30 centimeter rainfall and 60 centimeter, 90 centimeter, 120, 150, 170. You see here, 20 will be somewhere here. Okay. Then the area between 20 contour and 30 contour, that is this area. Okay, so we'll take average rainfall of those two contours and multiply with the area of this. So we can see the average rainfall of two isoheights surrounding a part of catchment area. So they are given in this column 25, 45, 75, etc. Then area between isoheights is here. So these values are estimated using a planimeter. So now, so we can calculate weightage factor. So weightage factor is area between isoheights divided by total area. Or otherwise, simply we multiply with average rainfall and area between isoheights, and we add all the areas. Then we will divide it by the total area. So here the volume of water between isoheights 20 and 30, that is given as 2400 kilometer square centimeter. Similarly, the volume of water of rainfall between these isoheights 30 and 60, so that is given as 45 into 600, that is equal to 27,000 kilometer square centimeter. So now we add all together, that comes out to be the total volume of water resulting from the rainfall in the catchment. So that is given as 1,51,480 kilometer square centimeter, and divided by the total area. The total area is 1944 kilometer square. Then the average rainfall is given as 77.92. So these are the three methods, and the easiest method is arithmetic mean method. But TSN polygon method is more complicated. Okay, so first we have to divide the area into polygons surrounding rain gauge stations, and we have to uh, estimate the area of the polygon which is representing a rain gauge. So this polygon method, TSN polygon method, is a little complicated, and limitation of this method is, suppose suppose a new rain gauge station is added or existing rain gauge station is removed, then we have to draw the uh, polygons again. So this is a kind of a problem. But in isoheightal method, it is not as easy as arithmetic method and not as complicated as TSN polygon method. So is in between. But isoheightal method is a more accurate method.
Sir,
Uh,
how those isoheightal lines were drawn?
just by taking the suppose you see this is rain gauge 6, okay, and here
Yes.
we have rain gauge 1, and we know the rainfalls at stations 1 and 6. Okay, then we have to interpolate. Suppose rain gauge station 1 has rainfall of 100 centimeter, whereas rain gauge station 6 is 90 centimeter. Then in between we have to draw 10 points, okay, representing uh, 99, 98, 97, 96, like that, because here it is 90, here it is 100. So we have to interpolate the rainfall between these two points by suitable interval. In this example, if for explaining purpose I have taken 1 centimeter interval, so we can write 91, 92, 93, 94, 95 at equal intervals. Similarly, 7 and 6, suppose 7 is, let's say, 110 and 6 is 90. Okay, so in between again we can divide into 20 intervals of 1
Okay, sir.
centimeter
Got your
rainfall.
point.
Yeah, then we have to draw all the intermediate points. Similarly, we have to draw for our entire network. Then we have to draw the lines passing, lines connecting same rainfall. Okay. So now you
Sir,
understood.
then for 30, there should be another train gauge station. There should be present so that the 30 line is correctly made.
Yeah, because
I
this is
think.
only for explaining purpose. Okay. Yeah, you need to have
Okay,
many
okay.
more
I
stations.
got
Okay.
you.
There got one
Yes.
station here, one station here.
Okay. Thanks.
So isohydral method is a better method among the three methods. And next, we have to find adequacy of rain gauge stations. Okay, so already I explained how to calculate adequacy of rain gauge stations for a given catchment. So in this example, a catchment has 9 rain gauge stations, and annual rainfalls recorded by these gauges are given, and the mean rainfall, the estimation of mean rainfall, we should have error less than 7%. 7%. Okay. So we have to calculate what should be the minimum number of rain gauges required for the catchment. Okay. So this is the table. These are the rain gauge stations 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, and then the annual rainfall at each station is given in the second column, 80.8, 87.6, 1 or 2. Okay, so you have been given rain gauge stations and their corresponding annual rainfalls. Then suppose to have less than 7% error, we need to calculate how many rain gauge stations needed for this catchment area. So the adequacy of rain gauge stations is calculated by using this formula. That is, the optimal number of rain gauge stations in given a catchment equal to CV by epsilon square, where CV is the coefficient of variation. So coefficient of variation is nothing but ratio between standard deviation and mean rainfall. Generally, it is represented by percentage. So therefore, this it is multiplied by 100. So 100 into sigma by p bar. Then epsilon is maximum percent of error allowed. So in that example, so epsilon is given 7%. Then we need to calculate what is the optimum number of rain gauge stations required. So you can see here, suppose the epsilon is high, that is uh, we can permit higher uh, error or higher variation, then the number of rain gauge stations will decrease. And suppose we want to minimum variation, we need to have rain gauge station density such that we'll have minimum variation with respect to the average rainfall of that catchment area, then we need higher number of rain gauge stations. Okay. So in this numerical example, annual rainfalls are given at each rain gauge station. Then we need to calculate standard deviation and average rainfall. So here the steps are given for standard deviation. Nowadays, in Excel, you can straight away calculate standard deviation. So for standard deviation is calculated as 26.788 centimeter, whereas the average rainfall of these 9 rain gauge stations is 110.2 centimeter. Okay, so the coefficient of variation is equal. Coefficient of variation is a non-dimensional number, which is equal to 100 into standard deviation by mean precipitation. So 100 into standard deviation divided by 110.2, so that comes out to be 24.31. Then the allowed variation of this rain gauge station with respect to the average rain gauge station, that is 7%. So for that condition, the number of rain gauges required is equal 24.3 divided by 7 square. Okay, so for 7% variation, we need to have 12 rain gauge stations. But right now we have only 9 rain gauge stations. So we have to supplement by another 3 rain gauge stations. Because see, right now the average rainfall is 110.2, whereas the minimum rainfall in the catchment, at location 1, that is 80.8. So you can see that the variation is around 30%. Okay, but therefore the number of rain gauges are less. Suppose if you go for 3 more rain gauge stations, then the average rainfall will. Okay, so if you go by under 3 rainfalls, then the variation that comes closer to this, the average rainfall comes closer to this 18.8. Because the rain gauge density, that is a function of climate and development and the purpose, etc. So suppose if you look at New York in United States, New York is a commercial capital of United States. Okay, so therefore that city is very important. So it needs more number of railway stations. And suppose some city which is sparsely populated and which doesn't have important buildings or factories, then we can go for lesser number of railway stations. Okay. So this is all about this precipitation. Just we have another 10 minutes time. So just I'll go recapitulation of what we have discussed in this chapter. Okay. So first, I've explained how the rainfall development takes place. Okay. So the rainfall mainly occurs because of this temperature lapse rate and as well as the pressure decrease as we go for higher altitudes. So at low temperatures, water holding capacity of moisture is less. So therefore, when air rises, because it's low temperature at higher altitudes, its moisture holding capacity decreases. So therefore, it condenses, and it condenses into small droplets. And these small droplets, because of this circulation of the circulation within the atmosphere, they hit other small droplets and they grow bigger. Then when their size becomes like around more than 1 mm, then rainfall occurs. So there are three types of rainfall: frontal rainfall, then orographic rainfall, then convective precipitation. Okay, so this convective precipitation, which mainly occurs near the uh, tropical areas, similar to the equator, where the air near to the earth immediately heats up and then it is lifted up. Then when it lifted up, it becomes cool. Some condensation occurs, and when the conditions are such that suppose that a cool wind is blowing, then immediately the condensed rainfall that becomes a rainfall. The condensed water that becomes rainfall. In the frontal rainfalls, either cold front, it is moving faster towards warm air, or warm air moving faster towards cold air. So suppose a warm wind which is moving faster towards cold wind, then what happens? The cold one is higher density, so therefore this warm front, it climbs onto this cold one. So when it climbs, then condensation happens. Whereas in this cold front rainfall, the cold front is rushing towards warm wind. Then the cold is higher density, so it penetrates. Okay, so cold front penetrating the warm wind. So due to that, the warm wind rises, and then rainfall occurs. In orographic precipitation, because the when the wind is blowing towards a mountain, it is deflected upwards, and when it lifted upwards, it becomes cools down. Then condensation takes place. And the other side of the mountain, that is the lee side of the mountain, because here the lifted up air is descending, so there is no rainfall, and generally on this side the desert will be found. So this is for artificial rainfall. We use cloud seeding. For that, we'll use silver iodide, which is sprayed on the on the clouds, and because the silver iodide is very cold, so therefore immediately the condensate that water which is cloud, which forms ice crystals, and there is a either ALR speed. So then we have decided discuss this terminal velocity of raindrop. Okay. So there are three kinds of forces they acting on a falling raindrop. So when the three forces, which as gravity and drag force and buoyant force, when they are in equilibrium, then the rainfall attains a terminal velocity. So which is computed by this formula. We can calculate the rainfall intensity using thunderstorm cell model. Okay, so in the thunderstorm cell model, it is divided into three parts. One is inlet and outlet, and there is a uplift. Okay, so the condensation takes place in this uplift zone. So for this, we need to apply, continuity equation. Moisture got two components. One is the vapor and as well as dry air. So we need to apply continuity equation for moisture and then as well as dry air. Then from that we can get the equation for intensity of rainfall. So there are five types of rainfalls. Okay, rain, freezing rain, sleet, snow, and hail. Rain is these are water droplets of size more than 1 mm up to 5 mm. This freezing rain and sleet, they occur because of the inversion of temperature gradient. Snow occurs in the higher latitudes, mid and higher latitudes. That is latitude more than 50 degrees. Then we'll get snow because the temperature from the clouds to the earth. So that is the freezing temperature. Then hail occurs because of the updraft. Okay, so you can see here the when condensation takes place and these tiny droplets are falling towards the earth, but the upwind they take away these droplets to the higher altitudes. They become ice crystals. Initially, they're very small size, so they go in there in circulation. They'll in circular motion due to the eddies, and their size grow. Once the size is become enough size, then these ice pellets dropped on the earth. There are measurement of rainfall. So mainly there are two types: non-recording and recording. So non-recording is Simon's gauge. Okay. So rainfall is data is taken by an observer at regular intervals. So in recording rain gauges, there are three types: tipping bucket type, and as well as weighing type gauge, and then siphonic rain gauge. Okay. So where the mo- these recording gauges they give mass curves. So then there is a radar, weather radar. So weather radar which sends electromagnetic pulses, and then these electromagnetic pulses they hit the raindrops, and again they reflected back towards the radar. So then using Doppler effect, the radar estimates the intensity and as well as direction of precipitation and intensity of precipitation and amount of precipitation. So the rainfall is mainly represented by mass curve and as well as hydrograph. Okay, so mass curve is it is the total rainfall accumulated with the respect of time with respective time, whereas this rainfall hydrograph which gives in a given interval what is the rainfall observed. Okay, so consistency of rainfall, if suppose due to the change in the land pattern, the rainfall changes. But for our purposes, for like for constructing hydraulic structure, we need 30-year rainfall data. Okay, but within this 30-year rainfall data, at certain year the rainfall pattern has changed. Okay, so that can be corrected by using this double mass curve method. Then we have also discussed the missing rainfall data. So for that we use either arithmetic average method or normal ratio method and inverse distance method. Okay, so in this normal ratio method is accurate one, because here we will average the uh, rain rainfall to normal annual rainfall at each station, and we will take average of surrounding stations ratios of precipitation to normal average rainfall. So from that we'll calculate px, that is missing rainfall at a given station. So then we have discussed the density of precipitation gauges, and so according to the Bureau of Indian Standards, for plain areas, every 500 square kilometer we need a rain gauge station. But for elevation more than 1000 meters, we need rain gauge station for every 260 to 390 square kilometer. And hill areas with heavy rainfall, like the Western Ghats, we need a rainfall station for every 130 square kilometer. So we have discussed how to calculate adequacy of rain gauge stations. Then we have discussed how to calculate mean area rainfall. Okay. So this is all about precipitation. So tomorrow I am going to cover. I'm going to teach evapotranspiration. So in the 2 hours period, I can complete evapotranspiration. And next week I will teach subsurface flow. So in the next week we will have a quiz that I will send you an email with the details. Okay. So for today's and tomorrow's class, tomorrow I'll give you one assignment. So it is already 12 1. So if you have any doubts, please let me know. So thanks, students. I mean, if you don't have any doubts, I'll stop it here.